session. We're going to give it about 30 seconds to another minute for additional people to trickle in, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get started with today's session. Okay, once again, hello and welcome to the Anti-Racism in Academia Reach Out information session. We're going to go ahead and get started. I see people are trickling in, but in the interest of time and to allow for questions, we're going to go ahead and begin the info session. Note that we are recording today, and both the recording and eventually a transcript will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we will make that known to all registrants and attendees today. So my name is Tina. I'm one of the co-founders of the Anti-Racism in Academia, or ARiA, initiative. Today, I'll walk you through some background information on ARiA, its signature program known as the Roll-Up Series, what the discussion session experience is like, what we'll be focused on discussing in June, and finally, how you can register today to participate. So let's get started with ARiA's origin story. By June of 2020, the US was in the midst of a global pandemic, and by some accounts, 128 Black people had been killed by police by that point in the year, including George Floyd. I was personally struck by how many statements of solidarity poured out from companies, academic institutions, and even individuals. They were seemingly heartfelt sentiments, but they lacked any indication of change, accountability, or action. I wondered what might be holding people and organizations back from doing more than issuing statements, or even talking about doing more. I was particularly curious about this in the context of higher education, where in theory, we have subject matter expertise, infrastructure, reach, and influence. So in July, I reached out to a colleague with an idea to bring the higher ed community together to discuss how individuals could contribute to systemic transformation in the context of anti-racism. Together, we connected with several other higher ed colleagues, and the concept for ARiA was born. Just a few weeks later in August, we launched the first prototype of our Roll-Up series. After just over 5 months, we completed our discussion series, and by March of this year, we established our think tank. That's a diverse body of Roll-Up series attendees and facilitators who help us evolve and grow ARiA. So what is ARiA? Well, we're a grassroots initiative that provides a way for higher ed employees to engage in self-examination through national intersectional conversations focused on acting from where you are. We believe in a shared humanity where open hearts, open minds. We insist that change at the individual level complements work at the organizational level, and the strength of both can push forward the systemic transformations necessary to create an inherently inclusive and just academy. And who is behind ARiA? Well, there are 6 of us, myself included, who lead the development of ARiA and its signature Roll-Up series. You can check out the whole ARiA squad, the leadership team, the think tank, and our 2021 facilitators on our website, ariajourney.org/thesquad. You'll notice we represent dozens of academic institutions across the country. So what makes ARiA noteworthy? First, we are a highly organized and agile initiative with a specific focus on empowering higher education employees to act appropriately from where they are in their DEI journeys. We have mechanisms for regularly soliciting input from facilitators and attendees, and we have internal practices that support quickly reviewing, deciding, and often incorporating changes to increase program efficacy and participant experience. We make iterative improvements to the program on an almost weekly cadence. We are as dynamic as our ever-changing community of participants and facilitators. Second is our approach. We use a learn, grow, lead framework to represent the iterative and continuous stages a person works through on a journey to become anti-racist and inclusive. Beyond that, we curate and organize content so that participants can think through what each concept is, why it's important, and how they can act from where they are. We aim to help individuals translate and contextualize the wealth of DEI information out there into meaningful ways in which they can act, influence, and lead. We spend a lot of our time in this program emphasizing our Learn, Grow, Lead framework. And that's because while we are eager for the whole world to act to build a more anti-racist culture, acting when you're not prepared to act or equipped to act or informed enough to act can actually recreate and cause additional harm. And so we believe in a learn, grow, and lead framework, which doesn't really account for the nuances in between those stages, but it's a simple way to remember that on any given topic, in any given scenario, you might be in the stage of learning, you might be in the stage of growing, or you might be in the stage of leading. And how you act from those stages can look very different. For the sake of ARiA, we described the learn stage of the journey to be one where you are just doing research. Your actions are to do well-rounded research from credible sources, to understand what the current events and issues are, to read and watch and view those things from multiple angles, from different lenses. Your actions are research-oriented. If you're in the grow stage of your journey, your actions are about changing yourself, about internalizing what you've learned, what you've read, the experiences of others, and focusing on how you can change your own attitudes, practices, and behaviors to be more inclusive, to be more anti-racist. And if you happen to be in the lead part of your journey, which is a very difficult place to be and not one we can ever be 100% ready for, you're at the stage where you've learned, you've done the research, you've understood the issues through multiple lenses, you've worked on yourself, maybe you've become more inclusive in the language that you use. Maybe you've changed the way you hire or recruit for jobs in your organization. Maybe you changed the way that you interact with people that are different than you. If you've done all those things, you might be ready to lead. And that means that you're able to model appropriate allyship, authentic allyship, and you're able to attempt to influence people and educate them on all the things that you've learned and understood. And what we want to emphasize is that the Learn, Grow, Lead framework is essential to the ARiA programming, but it's also an iterative process, right? You don't learn, grow, lead, and then you're done. You learn, you grow, you go back to learning, you go back to growing, maybe you dip a toe into leading. There are nuances in between all of this, and only you can really help yourself assess where you are and what action looks like from that point. So the best way to understand the ARiA approach is through our signature program that I mentioned earlier, and we call it the #RollApp series. RollApp for short, the hashtag is for us on social media, of course. RollApp stands for reach out, listen, learn, act, and persist. The 5 ways we suggest individuals can engage in thinking and behaving more inclusively on the journey to creating anti-racist organizations. These 5 topics are explored one by one over 5 months in 100% virtual 90-minute discussions with less than 10 higher ed employees from across the country and sometimes even other countries. We train, equip, and support facilitators to create and maintain safe spaces within which they can host these sessions. In 2020 alone, ARiA hosted 170 hours of reflective conversation through 119 sessions with the help of 45 amazing volunteer facilitators. We had a total of 650 participants in a program that we had just launched that we advertised by mainly word of mouth through mailing lists that we happen to be on as individuals. So we talk a lot about RollApp as a series, but what is the experience like if you're to participate? Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about that today so you can understand what it means to enroll in a single session or all 5 of them. Before we get into that, it's important to note that the entire experience that we provide is built around active discussion, reflection, and self-examination. and it's intended to contextualize how individuals can enact anti-racist attitudes, practices, and behaviors. What this means basically is that what you put into the experience is what you'll get out of it. Each month of what we call a rollout sprint, or the 5-month run of the discussion series, can be broken into 3 parts. The pre-session period is the time leading up to the virtual meeting, when you're provided with web conferencing details from your facilitator. You'll be alerted to learning materials that are usually in the form of articles and videos, and you'll be given an activity to help you reflect on the topic prior to the discussion. During the 90-minute session, you'll acknowledge the rules of engagement used to co-create safe spaces for learning and self-examination. You'll also review, reflect, and discuss the what, why, and how of the topic with session members and facilitators. So we break our content out into the what, why, and how. We talk about what the topic is. So what is reaching out? Why is reaching out important? And how can you reach out depending on where you are in your learning stages? After the session, you'll be invited to join our newly created Slack community and complete our feedback survey. You'll also be given a self-guided activity to help hold yourself accountable to enacting change. We emphasize the feedback survey because, as we said, what sets us apart from many other programs is that we have a very quick turnaround time. We ideate and we test our ideas, we pilot things, we put them into action, and we rely almost exclusively on attendee and facilitator feedback to help us understand what is working and what is not. And we rapidly make changes and adapt to make sure that we are maintaining an impactful and meaningful experience. And so if we hear something is working well, or there needs to be more of something else one day, by the end of the week, we probably have it in place so that we can launch with it the following week. And that's why it's so important. And you'll find that we emphasize throughout the entire experience that we look to you for your feedback. We take it seriously and we incorporate it every time we can. So now that we talked a little bit about the experience, let's talk about what's coming up this month. In June, we kick off the RO part of our ROLAP acronym. This month's discussion sessions will focus on reaching out. We define this as connecting with people from different backgrounds than your own. While we focus more on race, reaching out applies to interacting with people different than you in any number of ways. That could include age, gender, disabilities, socioeconomic status, and more. The point is to expose yourself to lived experiences different than your own, so you can understand how to be a better ally in creating equity and inclusion. When you sign up for a session in June, you'll engage in discussion with people to talk about why reaching out is important and how you can reach out from your own learn, grow, or lead stage of your journey. Now that we've walked you through ARiA, the rollout discussion series, and June's topic of reaching out, we want to make sure you know how to enroll. Registration opens right now. You can use a smartphone to scan or take a picture of the QR code on the screen and open up the registration page, or you can navigate to ariajourney.org/events. We've scaled back this year to focus on developing a more robust experience, so we'll only have 15 90-minute sessions available between June 8th and June 25th. That means there are less than 100 spots available. Last year, when we had double the sessions and seats, we sold out in less than 48 hours. If you're interested in participating in June, we recommend you register right away. We'll maintain a wait list, so consider signing up for waitlist ticket, even if you're unable to register for a particular session that you'd like. There are usually last-minute cancellations, and we make those available to our waitlist before opening them to the public. We will say this. We really hope that when you register, you can make as serious a commitment as possible to attending what you register for, because we have wait lists of 2, 3, and while we understand life happens and you may have to cancel last minute, if there's ever a situation where you must cancel and you can do so well in advance, we prefer that you do that so we can give other people a chance to join the session in as much advance notice as possible because of that pre-work that we provide for people to review. Finally, we want to point out that we're piloting something new this year. So when you register, you'll be asked if you want to participate in an a la carte or cohort experience. An a la carte is an a la carte experience, excuse me, is an opportunity to enroll on a month-to-month basis for each of the rollout topics. You'll choose the date and time that works for you, and you will probably be with a different facilitator and attendee in each session. So who you see in June for Reach Out may be different than who you choose to join in July for Listen, if you choose to join the July topic at all. On the other hand, the cohort experience has been created based on feedback. And this opportunity allows you to stay with the same facilitators and attendees for all 5 topics over the next 5 months. You'll get to build rapport with the same group over time, but you're committing to engaging in the roll-up series for all 5 months up front. In this particular case, we've already predetermined what the June dates and times will be if they work for you. If those June dates and times for the cohort sessions, there are only 4 of them, but if they work for you, if one of them works for you and you're interested in sticking with the same group throughout the 5 months, the schedules for July through October will be created with you and the facilitator. So a doodle poll will be sent out so that the every next month's dates will be based on what the best availability is for the entire cohort. And we did this because the way that the sessions are held are you join, you go over the rules of engagement, you do brief introductions with one another, and so you spend a few minutes, quote unquote, getting to know one another in these brief 90-minute interactions, and that happens each time. But if we were able, based on feedback, because people wanted to be able to build rapport, in a cohort experience, the introductions don't have to happen every time. You start to get to know each other a little bit more each next time you meet. You spend less time doing introductions because you're familiar with one another. And so more time can be allocated on having deeper discussion. And so the coordination from a scheduling and logistics standpoint is very difficult. And so we want to really be sure that this idea works and it's going to make sense since it's what people really want. We're doing it with 4 of the 15 sessions this year. And if it works out, we're going to start planning this year for next year to try to do it, more of a 50-50 ratio. And again, we would look to your feedback to determine if the cohort is preferred over a la carte or if they're preferred equally. So that wraps up this information session for today. And we want to use the remaining time to answer any questions you have via chat. I recognize that it was maybe a lot of information covered relatively quickly. Drop into chat if you need me to go back and re-go over anything that I mentioned, if you want me to sit on a particular slide so that you can sort of process it. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my mic and catch up on the chat and see if there's anything pending. I see someone asked which higher ed institutions. I don't know if that was related to the leadership team or something else. Cheryl, I don't know if you want to clarify what you were asking, but I'm happy to answer it, whatever it is.
Hi, Tina. I think that was more of a who's here today, and a lot of people have been sharing their where they're tuning in from and their institutions in the chat. So hopefully that covers us.
Yes. Okay, great. And I think I have a couple questions here. Let me just double check.
There's one that just came in about the like how exactly to register for the cohort model.
Yes, Lori. Okay, thank you for that question. So yes, I might not have been articulate enough. Right now, for those who are interested in the cohort, you will be asked if you're interested in cohort or a la carte during the registration process. If you choose cohort, you're only choosing a predetermined date that we've already figured out for June. Once you've joined whichever one of those 4 for June, you will then be considered part of the cohort. And for the future events between July and October, the facilitator will work with you, the facilitators will work with you to determine a meeting schedule for every next month. So you'll be part of that scheduling process, which is why right now you only have to be concerned with what works for you in June. And then you'll be part of what the dates will be for July, August, September, and October. Yes, so we're in webinar mode today, and that's because while we thought we might have a couple dozen people attend this info session, we have well over 200, and it turned out that a webinar was going to be the easier way to handle that. Cheryl mentioned hoping to see and talk to each other during the sessions. I think that's a great thing I can expand upon. This experience is not one where, and I respect that there are different personalities and some people are more introverted and shy. And there's room for everyone in these sessions, but these are not meant to sit in and listen. The whole point, the impactfulness of these ARiA rollout breakout sessions is the engagement, it's the dialogue. These are chances where you get to understand other people's lived experiences. Even if all the people in the room happen to look like you, same gender, same race or ethnicity, there is still something to be learned from one another. If not personally, then how one another's institutions and work cultures are. And so these sessions will be up to 10 people, including facilitators, probably on the order of more to six to 8 people. There will be a few slides that will orient you to what exactly you're talking about. And there'll be long pauses where you will engage in conversation with videos turned on. You will have questions to answer. You'll be able to reflect and share with one another. And it's highly interactive, highly engaging. For those that are a little bit, shy to speak, you can use chat in these sessions, but this is meant for you to join in very small, safe groups that are governed by our rules of engagement, where you will have direct dialogue with one another. And the point is to work through these questions, what they mean to you, what does it mean in terms of action for you? What, are those actions that you've determined you need to do? Are they challenging for some reason? This is your chance to talk across the country with people coming from different places to work through some of these concepts. I hope that helps, Cheryl, ensure that there will be definitely more interaction.
Hey, Tina, there are a couple of questions that are coming in via the Q&A.
Let me open that up.
Yeah, I answered some of them. I think if you can just clarify, when they go into the Eventbrite link, they don't see the days and the times. And if you can.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, yes. So because of how technology works and because of the complication, the wrinkle we threw in by having both a cohort and an a la carte model, where a la carte, translates to a day and time. And a cohort is a day and time for June, but the rest is to be decided. The way that we had to set up Eventbrite was a little bit creative. When you first join the event, when you first get to the Eventbrite page, what you're going to do is you're going to just purchase a ticket, because what we want you to do is just put that ticket in your cart and begin the checkout process. The questions about whether you want a la carte or cohort and what the available times are will show up as follow-up registration questions. So you just have to get yourself past putting one ticket in your cart and begin the registration process, where a number of questions will be asked of you. Where we ask whether you've participated in ARiA in the past. We're going to ask if you accept our rules of engagement. You're going to encounter those rules of engagement several times leading up to the actual session. And that's because the feedback from hundreds of people last year was that they wholeheartedly believed and felt like these were safe spaces for them to be honest and discuss these topics because of the rules of engagement, because they are stated time and time again and they are enforced, and it's collective buy-in around them. And so you'll see those come up several times, but in addition, you'll see the question about a la carte or cohort with times and dates listed. And then, like I said, if you're interested in cohort right now, you just have to focus on what works for you in June. Then your cohort together will determine what the July, August, September, and October topic dates and times will be. I'm trying to keep up with both chat and Q&A here, but if anyone wants to point me in the direction of other questions that I have not answered, I'd be happy.
One more, I think. So Colette asks, are there ways to learn how to start more sessions? We held similar talks, but would like to use the structure and expertise you have.
Sure. So Yes and no. As we stated, we're a very grassroots organization. We are a mission-driven group of folks, both the leadership team and the facilitators. We do this sort of in our spare time. The irony is that this is hugely impactful work happening at a national level, and yet it's still sort of a pet project at the moment. We're working to change that and to formalize ourselves. We are happy in an informal way to sort of set up meetings when time permits for people to sort of pick our brains and for us to kind of share some of the logistical tips and program structure information that we have. When we can do that, we have had those sorts of conversations. We don't really have a neatly packaged set of documents or prototype or kit in a box or anything like that that we can hand to folks. And so for now, we've just been handling it through informal conversations where we attempt to understand what it is you're trying to achieve, how we might have done the same thing or do similar things, what works for us, what hasn't worked. We're happy, we're all about open access and sharing the knowledge. So we're happy to do that, but we just don't have anything formal, like a to-do checklist or like a template format that we can hand out. Let me know, Colette, if that answers your question or if you have a follow-up. I do want to acknowledge that we have some of our absolutely wonderful facilitators in the crowd today. I happen to see Amy's name right in front of me. I'm sure that there are others. I think I did see some other names. So if you are on the call and you have been an ARiA facilitator or attendee and you want to drop anything in the chat, please feel free to say anything. I hope it's not anything bad, but I'll take it if it is as constructive feedback.
Actually, Tina, Amy just asked a question earlier on. Thanks for the introduction. Other than the number of groups, what will be the main differences with this series of ARiA?
Oh, that's a great question. So for anyone who participated in the past, we were very new and we rapidly developed the program month to month, right? So, in July, we came up with what we were going to do in August, and in August, we came up with what we were going to do in September, et cetera. And while it being so rapid was fantastic, it didn't allow as much time for us to really think deeply and strategically about how we can create a more consistent and cohesive program. And so we tackled that this time around. Where I mentioned in the presentation, there's now a pre, during, and post-session experience, whereas last year there was sort of a pre-session experience and a during experience, but there was really no post-session activity. So what we're doing this year is we're ensuring tight cohesion between what we ask, the articles and videos we ask you to watch before the session are more deeply connected and related to the topic at hand. And the activity that we come up with for you to do to help you self-reflect is also much more closely tied to the content that will be covered during the session. During the session, we've come up with additional question prompts. We had really only 2 or 3 last time, which in some cases were sufficient, and in other cases, for some groups, more questions would have been helpful. So we've bolstered some of that as well. On the back end of things, we've provided a different kind of training for our facilitators. We've equipped them with more resources, given them some training and tips and some more guidance. And on the back to the front side of the experience, the post session, when you're done with this experience, when you're done with your 90-minute session, you will be invited to join a Slack community that didn't exist before. That's also a pilot. We're happy to nurture and cultivate it if it works. If it's not the best mode of communication, we'll look into other modes based on feedback. You'll also be given a post-session worksheet, we're calling it. It's not something we're going to check up on with you, but it is something we can give you to help you think through how you can take the experience of the month and turn it into action in your context based on where you are in your learning journey, where you work, what it is you're looking to achieve. And so it's just a little bit more of scaffolding to help you move forward and translate the experience into action. Excellent question, Amy. I'm glad you had me highlight that.
There is one more, and we have a minute. Where one person asked, can you show us the website and walk us through how to register? I'm only seeing this event on the website. Where are the other events?
Okay, I can try to do that. Let me see. I don't know that we have time. We are effectively done. If anybody wants to drop off the call to go to the next thing, that's fine. This is being recorded. I will stick on a little bit longer to walk through the website. And it'll be available on the recording for anyone that wants to catch up onto it later. So let me get my screen share back up here. Forgive me, I'm working on the fly here. Let's see if I can do this elegantly. All right, we're gonna go to events. So we're on ariajourney.org. I clicked on events up here. We're only showing the event for June, which is Reach Out. That's intentional. We are not going to have a schedule for July, August, September, or October until those months arrive. We usually announce dates for every next month's topic about 2 weeks in advance. So we'll start to have a registration process for July's topic of listen later in the month of June. So right now we're focused only on June and Reach Out. You'll get to the registration page. You'll click on register. Here, you're going to want to choose one ticket for general session. That's going to move you to the next part of the registration process. You'll go ahead and click on register. And here is where you're going to put in your information and you're going to start answering the registration questions. So which events have you attended in the past? This is to remind everyone, because this is a big tripping point, that we can't help the technology, but Eventbrite will only show the Eastern time zone or a single time zone. And so everything you're seeing is in the Eastern time zone, and you'll need to do the translation to your time zone. So you're acknowledging that here, and you're making sure you keep that in mind when you look at the times. You're gonna decide whether you want a la carte or cohort. If you click on either one of these, a follow-up question will show up. You'll see here for a la carte, we've already sold out on Anna's session, June 8th. We've already sold out on Keith McIntosh's session on June 15th. The ones that are not grayed out are still available. These are all excellent facilitators. Here you'll see the terms and conditions for engaging in an ARiA activity whatsoever, and then the rules of engagement, which you'll see several times leading up to the session date. And if you need any accommodations, we'd like to know about them here so we can work towards supporting you in the best way we can. If you scroll back up here and you decide, maybe I want to try the cohort model, it seems like you can't anymore, because in the time it took me to present, our cohort seats have all been taken. So at this moment, live right now at 3:32 Eastern time, only a la carte options are available, and they're the ones that are not grayed out. So in a case like this, if none of these times are working for you, you're going to hit the back button. You're going to leave checkout so you can get back to the screen. And here's where you might want to go get onto the wait list. We do occasionally get last minute cancellations, and we will send a blast email to our wait list when that happens, the minute we know about it. And that'll be your opportunity to sign up for any seat that opens up if it works for your schedule. Hopefully that answers the question for whoever asked. Anything else?
I think we've covered it, Tina. I think some of our attendees were trying the cohort and they weren't able to find any sessions. So it was because they're all sold out.
Okay, all right, great. Well, thank you for those of you who stuck on a little bit longer. And we appreciate your interest in the program, and we look forward to possibly seeing you on our registration lists. Have a good day. Thanks for joining.
Bye, everybody.